Let yourself settle into this tale of a small town where anger gave way to understanding, and where the pieces of what was broken became the foundation of something beautiful. St. Mary's Hollow was the kind of Midwestern town that appeared on postcards. White painted wooden houses lined maple-shaded streets, children practiced baseball on dusty diamonds, and the town square centered it all with its fountain, flagpole, and marble statue known simply as Our Lady of Mercy. The statue had stood there since 1919, placed after the Spanish flu pandemic devastated the community. Survivors swore the Virgin's protection had carried them through, and since then, Our Lady of Mercy had become woven into the very fabric of the town. Every morning, retirees on their walks paused to cross themselves. Newlyweds posed beside her gentle face for their first photographs. Each Thanksgiving, families gathered in the square, circling the statue as hymns echoed before sharing soup and bread under autumn skies. To Mrs. Wilson, a 76-year-old widow, the statue was a lifeline. Every Friday, she placed white daisies at the Virgin's feet in memory of her husband, who never returned from Korea. "I believe he's in heaven," she'd tell curious children, "and Mary is my way of sending love to him." To Tom Riley, the local mechanic, the statue was a reminder to breathe. When business got rough, he'd sit in her shadow and remember that life was bigger than overdue bills. Even to Hannah Khan, a 17-year-old Muslim girl whose family had moved to town years earlier, the statue carried quiet comfort. After failing to make varsity basketball, she'd spent one long night sitting on the stone steps below Mary's outstretched hands. "I don't even share that faith," she later confessed to a friend, "but something about her face made me feel less alone." For St. Mary's Hollow, Our Lady of Mercy wasn't just weathered marble. She was memory, faith, and unity carved in stone. Adam Khan had been the picture of the American dream. Arriving from Morocco 15 years earlier with his wife Isla and their children, he'd brought 3 suitcases, family photographs, and determination to build something better. Within a decade, Adam had opened a small auto shop with Tom Riley. The two men couldn't have been more different. Tom, a lifelong Midwesterner. Adam, an immigrant still mastering English quirks. Yet grease, engines, and long hours under the hood made them brothers. The Khans blended into the town's rhythms. Hannah excelled in school and played basketball. David swung bats in the same fields where generations had cheered. Isla taught Moroccan cooking at the community center, filling the air with saffron and cinnamon, winning neighbors one plate at a time. People nodded approvingly. Asterisk, this family made it. This is what integration looks like. Asterisk. But in October 2024, Adam's phone rang with news that cracked his world in two. His mother had died quietly in Casablanca after battling cancer she'd hidden from her children, not wanting to burden them. Adam dropped his wrench, oil splattering across the garage floor. "She wanted to see me one last time," he sobbed to Tom. "And I wasn't there. I chose bills over her." At the funeral in Casablanca, his brother's eyes were cold. One whispered just loud enough, "The American, the one who forgot where he came from." When Adam returned to St. Mary's Hollow, nothing looked the same. The statue in the square, once a silent neighbor he'd never considered, now seemed to stare with judgment. Town laughter sounded distant. Even his garage felt hollow. By winter 2024, the Khan home had grown cold, not from Midwestern snow, but from silence within its walls. Adam spent more nights in the garage than at dinner. When he did come home, his eyes were fixed on his phone, not his family's faces. At first, it was harmless news clips, soccer highlights, updates from overseas relatives. But YouTube recommended Kareem Elahi, a self-styled preacher broadcasting from Detroit. Kareem was polished, articulate, weaving theology with grievance. "You've given this country your work, your taxes, your loyalty," he declared into the camera. "But what have you received? Suspicion, indifference, humiliation." The words cut deep, giving language to feelings Adam couldn't articulate. His brother's whispers at the funeral, the invisible wall between himself and neighbors he'd once laughed with. Video after video, Kareem's tone hardened. They put crosses on courthouses, statues of their saints in every square. "Do you not see the hypocrisy? How long will you let their symbols mock you? The Virgin Mary statue Adam had walked past for 15 years suddenly loomed as an insult carved in stone. He began avoiding the square, but avoidance only fueled resentment. Isla tried reaching him. "Please," she said one evening, setting his favorite chicken tagine on the table. "Come eat with us. The kids miss your voice." Adam barely glanced up. "I'll eat later." He carried his phone to the garage and shut the door. At school, Hannah noticed her father no longer asked about tests or games. "Dad, you don't even look at me anymore," she whispered one night. "You'll understand when you're older," he muttered. The spiral tightened. Kareem's sermons shifted from dignity to demands. "Who among you will take a stand? Who will strike a blow that cannot be ignored?" Late nights, Adam lay staring at the ceiling, Kareem's words echoing. "Who will take a stand?" He imagined smashing the statue, proving he still mattered, the crowd cheering him on. Isolation became the soil, Kareem's voice the seed, and unhealed anger the water that fed a dangerous transformation. The Midwest sun hung heavy over St. Mary's Hollow that sweltering July afternoon. Main Street lay hushed, shops shuttered for lunch, kids hiding from heat indoors, the town square sitting in usual midday stillness. At 2:15 p.m., Adam stepped from his house with a navy gym bag slung over his shoulder. Inside lay a sledgehammer, chisel, and steel crowbar, tools not for fixing but breaking. Neighbors greeted him without suspicion. Mrs. Jenkins, watering petunias, waved, "Hot one today, Adam." He nodded stiffly and kept walking. By 2:25 he reached the square. Our Lady of Mercy gleamed white against the blazing sky. For over a century, she'd watched over weddings, funerals, parades, vigils. Today she stood unknowing as the target of a man consumed by rage. Adam looked around. Benches empty, fountain bubbling lazily, American flag hanging limp. Perfect. He unzipped the bag, pulled out the hammer, gripped it until his knuckles blanched. For a moment his body froze. Then Kareem's words thundered in his mind. "Who will take a stand?" Adam raised the hammer and brought it down on the statue's base. The sound cracked through the square like a gunshot. Marble splintered, pigeons scattered. He swung again, and again, each strike echoing like thunder, each fragment feeding the fire inside him. From a third-floor window, Mrs. Wilson parted her curtain, hands flying to her mouth. "Dear God, he's destroying her." She dialed 911 with trembling fingers. Tom Riley, walking back from the hardware store, heard the crashes and hurried toward the square. He stopped short seeing his friend, hammer raised, bashing the statue with wild fury. "Adam!" Tom shouted. "Stop! What are you doing?" But Adam didn't hear. Lost in frenzy, sweat and dust mixing with blood from stone fragments, he kept swinging until the Virgin's figure lurched forward, teetered, then toppled with a sickening crash. The statue's head rolled across cobblestones and stopped at Adam's feet. For the first time, his eyes dropped to the carved face. Serene expression unchanged even in ruin. Sirens wailed. Crowds swelled. Phones captured everything. As officers cuffed him, Adam saw neighbors he'd greeted for years. The grocer, barber, postman. All staring with disbelief, betrayal, grief. At 2:30 p.m., as parish bells tolled, they rang not over peaceful afternoon, but over broken stone, broken hearts, and the broken soul of a man who'd answered the wrong call. Within hours, shaky phone videos hit social media. Hashtag destroyed Mary statue and hashtag Esta Mary's Hollow trended nationwide. Cable news panels debated, politicians pounced, and St. Mary's Hollow became ground zero for America's culture wars. For Adam's family, the nightmare was just beginning. Isla returned from grocery shopping to cameras flashing in her face. "Did you know your husband planned this? Was your family part of his radicalization?" Hannah scrolled through cruel memes of her father holding the hammer, locking herself in the bathroom to vomit from shame. At the garage, customers demanded refunds from Tom, accusing him of covering for a terrorist. The town split, some shouting for exile, others remembering 15 years of Adam helping neighbors, fixing their cars, carrying food boxes for the elderly. Against the storm of outrage, small voices of hope began to rise. Sister Margaret, an 82-year-old nun, walked slowly into the square surrounded by cameras. "I knew Adam Khan," she declared, voice raspy but firm. "He carried food boxes with me, fixed our van for free. This man was no monster, he was a neighbor who lost his way. The statue may be broken, but our hearts don't have to be." At the high school, Student Council President Jason Miller stood before the gymnasium. "I've known Hannah for 3 years. She's straight A, tutors kids in math, cheers louder than anyone. She is one of us. She is not responsible for her father's actions." Students rose in thunderous applause. For the first time since her nightmare began, Hannah felt seen not as the terrorist's daughter, but as herself. Dr. William Miller wrote in the local paper, "Adam brought his children for checkups like any other father, polite and grateful. This crime hurt us deeply, but to paint him as nothing but a villain erases the man who lived among us for 15 years. In the gray corridors of Jefferson County Jail, Adam sat with head buried in hands. The fire that drove him to swing the hammer burned out, leaving only ashes of shame. On a Tuesday afternoon, the steel door clanged open. "Visitor." Adam shuffled to the interview room expecting another lawyer. Instead, he froze. Across the table sat Bishop Jameson in simple black cassock, eyes steady, not condemning but searching. "Adam," he said softly, "thank you for meeting me. Why would you come here? I destroyed your statue. I dishonored your faith. I didn't come to see the man who broke stone. I came to see the man who was broken." The words pierced Adam's chest. Tears welled as he confessed everything. Grief over his mother, resentment he'd let fester, nights lost in Kareem's videos. "He told me I'd finally matter if I acted. But all I've done is destroy everything that mattered." Bishop Jameson reached across the table, resting his hand on Adam's trembling fist. "You are not beyond mercy. Christ forgave those who nailed him to the cross. The Virgin whose face you shattered would not curse you. She would pray for you. I don't deserve mercy. No one does. That's why it's called grace." That night, alone in his cell, Adam opened the Quran the prison chaplain had given him. His eyes fell on a verse he'd long ignored. Indeed, Allah loves those who repent and purify themselves. For the first time since the statue fell, he whispered not in rage but prayer, "God, have mercy on me. Help me find the way back." News of the bishop's visit sparked conversations across St. Mary's Hollow. The parish council proposed a fund to restore the statue, expecting modest response. Instead, donations poured from across the country, checks with notes like, "For reconciliation," children mailing pocket money in envelopes marked, "For hope." The fund swelled past $150,000, triple the restoration cost. The council voted to create something new, not a replica but art that spoke to both wound and healing. They contacted Kareem Boyd, a renowned sculptor of Arab-American descent. Studying the rubble, he said, "This town doesn't just need a statue. It needs a story of reconciliation carved in stone." His design stunned them. 2 women, one in flowing Catholic robes, another in simple headscarf, standing side by side, arms outstretched, sheltering a small child between them. The inscription would read in English and Arabic, "To all who choose love over hate. ## the unveiling." October 15, 2025. Autumn air carried the crisp bite that made leaves crackle and church bells ring sharp. 2,000 people crowded the square, candles flickering against twilight, breath rising in white clouds. The mayor spoke first. "3 months ago, we were broken. Today, we gather not to erase the past, but to redeem it." Bishop Jameson followed. "This statue is more than stone. It's a promise that mercy can build what hatred tries to destroy." Imam Omar added, "Let this remind us, when we stand together, our children inherit peace instead of fear." Then came the most unexpected moment. From the county building steps, escorted by guards but no longer shackled, walked Adam Khan. Thinner, older, humbled by months in confinement. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some gasped, others bristled, but many leaned forward, waiting. Bishop Jameson handed Adam the cord tied to the veil. "Your fall hurt us, Adam, but today you help us rise." Adam's hands shook, gripping the rope. He looked over the sea of faces, neighbors, friends, strangers. Some glared, some wept. Tom Riley stood near front, arms folded, eyes wet, giving the slightest nod. With deep breath, Adam pulled. The veil slipped away, and the reconciliation statue shone under floodlights. Gasps echoed, followed by hush so deep even wind seemed to pause. The two women of stone stood serene, the child between them safe in their embrace. St. Mary's Hollow saw not division, but unity carved in marble. Adam's voice cracked at the microphone. "I have no right to ask forgiveness. I destroyed something sacred, but you built something more sacred than what I broke. Reconciliation, hope. I don't deserve to stand here, yet you allow me. For that, I'll spend my life trying to be worthy." The crowd erupted in applause. Some cried openly. Others clasped hands across divides that weeks ago seemed unbridgeable. A chant began soft but growing. Together, together. 1 year later, St. Mary's Hollow was known not for destruction, but rebirth. Schools taught the story as a lesson in mercy. Pilgrims traveled to see the statue as witnesses to what forgiveness could build. Hannah, now a college freshman studying medicine, told a reporter, "Dad's worst moment became our community's turning point. He fell so far, but in his fall we all found something higher." Adam spent his days speaking in schools and community centers, warning against voices of hate. Don't let anger steal your soul. Don't let someone else's poison guide your hand. The hammer that once destroyed had become the chisel that carved new identity. St. Mary's Hollow, once broken, now stood as a beacon of mercy. In the quiet of the square, when candles burned low and crowds dispersed, the stone mother still stood, arms open, the child between them safe, a permanent reminder that love can rise from ruins. And so, from the rubble of a shattered statue, a small town discovered something greater than stone. They learned that forgiveness isn't weakness but the strongest act of all. A man who raised a hammer in anger now bows his head in humility. A community once divided by fear now stands together in hope. Asterisk rests now in this truth. Even in our darkest hours, grace remains possible. Mercy can reach the most broken heart, and unity can rise from ruins. Sleep peacefully, knowing that love, when chosen, echoes louder than anger ever could. Asterisk. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs reminding that forgiveness is stronger than hate, and that broken things can become the foundation of something beautiful.